Hi again, and welcome back for this week's video. I'm going to be doing something a little bit different. I am going to be taking an up-close look at one of my previous creations, much like I did in my Jedi video. The dress is an 1880s mourning with a U attire. Little flares that were not strictly historically accurate, like in my fabric choice. But it ended up being more than that. This dress I had made completely for my own purposes, but then not long after, I was cast in Into the Woods as Cinderella's stepmother, and I was able to provide my own costume, which is a really special experience for me, being a performer who makes costumes. When I have opportunities to bring them together, it makes me feel more connected on both sides. So, as I am showing all the layers of this costume and all the details, I'm going to be talking about my interpretation of that character after I've had the time to really get deep into the weeds of Into the Woods. So, enjoy.
Cinderella's stepmother may not have much time on stage, but the part she plays is an important one. Her function in the plot of Act 1 is to serve as a barrier to Cinderella, making several attempts to prevent her from going to the festival, pursuing the prince when she doesn't realize he is out looking for Cinderella, and finally trying to prevent the prince from so much as looking at Cinderella after he rejects both of her daughters. On the surface, she seems to be a shallow woman whose only concern is her own appearance and social standing, but her words and actions indicate a degree of desperation that only comes from insecurity. She knows that her own daughters are not nearly as refined and desirable as she wants them to be, and by the end of the first act, she accepts the fact that they aren't going to win over the prince by playing by the rules. However, to contrast her insecurity is a sense of stubbornness and bold ambition. Settling for less than a royal marriage is not an option, nor is planning a less extreme scheme. And when all these factors come together, the end result is a woman who truly believes that the ends of marrying a prince justify the means of permanently disfiguring her children. We also see a few quick glances that reveal that her insecurity runs deeper than these superficial issues. She questions her success, value, and security as a mother and wife. In Second Midnight, she makes the personal confession that you can never love somebody else's child the way you love your own. Act 2 sees a change for all characters, and for the stepmother, this means seeing that her consequences have actions. Before I began diving into the text for this role, I had a hard time sorting out what exactly was going on in her head during the So Happy number. Was she dripping with sarcasm? That didn't fit for me. We hadn't seen sarcasm from her, or anyone really, up until that point. Was she pleased with what she got? A place in the royal family? No, that didn't work for me either. She wanted one of her own daughters to marry the prince and to block Cinderella by any means necessary. We already saw that she had an all-or-nothing mentality, so to see Cinderella have what she wanted for her own children would be an insult to her. Rather, I think what's going on is that the stepmother is realizing that her actions have consequences, but it's not remorse that she feels, it's fear. She knows that her elevated status is on account of Cinderella, and that Cinderella could be within her rights to take it away. Because one major theme of the Cinderella story is the contrast between kindness and selfishness, it's likely that the stepmother sees the worst in people and assumes that all people are as self-centered as she is. Cinderella may be too generous to abandon her abusive family, but the stepmother doesn't see it that way. She sees someone who would be justifying in unleashing all kinds of fury. Furthermore, I don't think it's a stretch to assume that the stepmother has some kind of awareness of Cinderella's ability to communicate with birds, and saw the attack on Florinda and Lucinda as something done at Cinderella's behest, a warning, or a show of power. The lines, "We're so happy, you're so happy, just as long as you stay happy," are not a simple acknowledgement of an improved life, but a plea to appease the person in power. In the face of adversity, people often become more themselves, and that's certainly the case for the stepmother. Rather than springing into action, or worrying for the sake of others when the giant attacks, the stepmother is solely concerned with keeping herself safe and is not above marking others off as acceptable losses. She even has one of the most relatable lines in the play. Why can't everything just go back to normal? She's eager to give the narrator over to the giant, to reveal Jack's location, and her best strategy to protect her family is to flee, admitting that she has no interest in staying around to help others who might be in danger. Her final line, "When going to hide, know how to get there," is not only a reference to this, but a life lesson for the audience, that avoidance is not a suitable strategy for handling your problems. Finally, I'd like to address an overarching theme of this musical and where the stepmother fits. Another thing that puzzled me before I began to prepare for this role was how "Children Will Listen" fits in the story arc. It's a lovely song, and it's obviously meant to address the baker's fears as he begins life as a single father. However, to see where it fits, you have to take a step back. One theme that ties together all of the familial relationships is the concept of parents making the wrong choices about raising their children because they think what they're doing is for the child's own good. These range from mild examples, like Jack's mother being dismissive of his wants and dreams, to the witch's abuse of Rapunzel in the name of protecting her. Cinderella's stepmother is obviously one of the more extreme cases. She's the pushy mom who believes that her children's success is the top priority, without any regard for their well-being. As the baker contemplates his new role as a father, he is surrounded by people who have either made missteps as parents or been deeply affected by their parents' mistakes. The second act's finale mirrors the prologue and the first act's finale, but instead of a message of excitement and adventure, the lyrics tell of caution, fear, and yet hope. Things are changed, but trying to circle back to the way they were before. That's kind of what the stepmother's journey was like. She did make progress. She faced challenges, but she doesn't want to be changed by them, and she still has a selfish heart. That's all for this one. Thanks for watching.